take some control of this situation.
That's what I said. I said to have us all come out here with an announcement and stuff. He's just like, no, we'll just sit here like Barney Miller.
All right, here's the
You
announcement.
guys are too young to know Barney Miller. What am I saying?
This is how busy we've been putting this event together for everybody, okay? We did not realize that Wednesday, this past Wednesday, the first day that we took possession of this building for the first ever Rebel Scum Con, was exactly 3 years to the day that we purchased rebelscum.com from Philip Wise.
Yep.
Yep. Where's the applause? What's going on here? Wake up.
So, I guess let's just go ahead and get into that origin. That was an interesting. We were in spring at that point before we made the purchase. So April? That was an interesting April afternoon.
Make sure your walkie's on.
It's down. Sorry I'm late. I was working.
Right. So, welcome. So, Kentucky, everybody, the other owner. We got invited through a friend of ours to Philip's warehouse, his compound, as we like to call it. And we thought we were there to do business under our other business, Order 66 Toys. So for those of you in the audience who might be familiar with that business venture, that was the first official licensed through Lucasfilm Star Wars collectible toy store.
As Disney purchased the IP, before it was even made official for everybody, they reached out to 6 companies. Those companies were like Topps Trading Cards, Marvel Comics, which they had recently acquired, companies like that. They asked for Order 66 toys that my father and I founded almost 15 years ago in August now. They asked for us to be included in what they call the Star Wars Network. Okay? Basically, what they wanted us to do was keep an eye on the aftermarket pricing for the collectibles, make sure that people were not being taken advantage of, make sure that what they thought the correct pricing for aftermarket stock should be determined by us was being enforced, and making sure that that information was made available to whomever was looking for it. So that's where we started. At that point, several years later, because of our efforts with Order 66 Toys and everything else that we were doing, like Bobby alluded to, somebody reached out to us, a good friend who had been one of our clients through Order 66 for years, and said, hey, I need to introduce you to somebody. Now, I've known Philip for a while, but as like this iconic figure in the community who, was one of the founders of Fan Expo and several of these other iconic companies like Official Picks. So kind of the godfathers of Star Wars. So when I get called into this meeting, and Bobby and I get called into this meeting with my father, it turned into kind of a bait and switch, because we thought that we were there to purchase the rebelscum.com archive, which is a warehouse. And we did purchase it, but a year later. Turns out that we were there to discuss the future of the Star Wars community, which I was not prepared for. One of the very first things in that meeting that was asked of us was, if you guys owned Rebel Scum, what would you do with it? And the very first answer, totally unprepared, was, we need to get the community back together. And Philip said, how would you do that? And I said, I think we need a new Star Wars convention.
So more accessible to the public is what you're saying.
Right.
More accessible to the public, and more affordable, with guest signers that are going to take the time with every person and say hi and get to know you a little bit and maybe share a story and just be available.
And that's what we were already doing through Order 66 Toys. And 6 years ago, we joined up with a very large Facebook group called the Community of Star Wars Collectors. It's currently called the CSWC. And it is a free group to join. It's a wonderful family, a great support group, all kinds of cool, free, fabulous prizes and donations from various members. When something happens in life to somebody, a lot of them just come together and show out for that person or that family, and it's really awesome to be a part of that. And through a lot of that work we did with them and a lot of the content we did with them and our Friday Night Live sales, I guess somehow we did something right and put ourselves on Philip's radar, and then he has passed the torch. So welcome, everybody, to the new face of RebelScum.com and Rebel Scum Con for the first time ever. We are so happy to have every single one of you with us. And for those of you who may have missed us on year one, well, we are so happy for all of you Star Wars fans as well, and we can't wait to see you in the future.
That's for the camera back there.
That is for the camera. That's for the camera in the back. And for the friends who are back home of the people in this room who are going to hear all kinds of cool stories from this weekend. So
Well,
it was such an
here's
interesting
an
day.
opportunity, a really good segue.
Yeah.
Nick over here also has been on the Rebel Scum team for a long time.
Longer than
since,
us.
Since before us. But
Mm-hmm.
in addition to that, has been running Cool Toe Review, which is now back as the same company. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah, part of the thing we were looking at when we were covering cons back in the, I guess before the 2020s, was, there's a lot going on at like SDCC and other events, and we were missing out on that. So Cool Toys sort of came out of that as a necessity of what else can we do, how else can we get engaged in the same community. We work a lot with Hasbro. Hasbro does a lot. They don't just do Star Wars. So it was a good way to sort of capture some of that. And people love Star Wars, and they love other things too. So it's sort of a natural way to explore a lot of those fandoms and keep the same community dialoguing. I mean, we share the forums. So we share with conversations that are happening on Rebel Scum. They're also happening on Cool Toy Review. And it's a great way. And just as an aside, not to make Josh blush or anything, but I met these guys again in, 2022? I think we ran into each other
At
by
SDCC?
fate. At SDCC. We were both chilling out at the Entertainment Earth booth, and I saw these guys, and I'm like, you're the new Rebel Scum guys. I used to be Rebel Scum. I like what you guys are doing. You have the same representation of the community that we wanted to have, being a positive voice for collectors, looking out for everyone, getting more diversity of opinions, diversity of coverage. And I just love being part of that. And Josh was like, well, why aren't you part of it now? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, there was a lot of confusion as stuff started separating, and we lost a lot of people. But he was eager to welcome me back in, and I don't regret a minute of that. It's been great. I've been really impressed with everything. And here at the con, I've seen Josh run around, and his worry has been, is everyone else happy? You know, he has been making sure vendors are happy. He has been making sure that the signers are happy. He has been making sure that attendees are happy. Like, that is his focus. It's first is everyone having a good time.
To that point, I could not walk through that vendor room yesterday during preview night without people stopping me and thanking me for the invite, because this was an invite-only event for vendors, guys. There's not a vendor here that we would not vouch for, or people that we wouldn't appreciate having here, because there was a lot on the line. It's our first impression to a different side of the community, and we wanted to make sure that this was taken very, very seriously. But I can tell you, even just preview night last night, which was VIP and event pass holders, the outpouring of love just from the vendors was very positive, and for what it's worth, they're already asking me how to get on the list for next year.
We've actually been getting questions for year two well in advance when we're still working on year one. I mean, we're here on site. This is the Welcome To panel. We're still getting things ready, and we're still rocking and rolling because there's just so much. There's so many awesome guests here. I mean, if any of you haven't gone to the signer room yet, it is just full of all kinds of awesome Star Wars celebrities that are just excited to meet you as you are to meet them and engage with them. Ask them questions while you're standing there at your booth getting your autograph or your selfie. And then also, we have some really cool panels coming up with not only our guest signers this weekend, where we'll get to ask some questions like Mr. Kevin Lyle here very shortly.
I think I got 6 or 7 of them. You've got
something like that.
A bunch. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's also going to be a few panels where the guests themselves are hosting, which
Eric Walker. Isn't he
Eric
doing
Walker.
Eric Walker from the Ewok Adventures when we were kids? Well, probably before some of you were even born. And
was
I thought
before
that
me.
was great that he's doing it.
It is before my
You know-
time. Well, I mean, why wouldn't we? I mean, he's such a good guy. He hosts his own podcast too, all for sci-fi, and we thought having them present too would just be another fun. They're part of the community alongside you guys as well type feel, which is that kind of grounded community feel we wanted to go for with Rebel Scum Con.
One of the things that we wanted to go for in that regard is everybody that's in that signer room, they're as big of a fans as we are. And if they were not in there signing, they'd be here attending and walking the aisles. It doesn't matter that they were in the movie. It just so happens that that's how they got invited.
Some of them actually have been. Yeah.
Yeah, instead of
Yeah, some of them
actually
have
going
been.
to the room to start the day, they came to the vendor room.
Yeah. We've been
I went last winter. I went toe to toe with Roy Ross, one of the Mandalorians at Star Wars Trivia. He's good. He knows his stuff, and I like to think I'm pretty good. And
he knows
he's good.
his stuff. He knows his stuff. Speaking of Roy Ross, is anybody in here from Publish AR? No? Yeah, tell them about that.
So Publish AR is a new company. They have this really cool app. It's a free service. You just download the app in your Play Store with Apple, Android, whichever. And they have coded lots of our images and signage across the convention for more interaction for you guys. So what you can do is, with that app open, just hover your screen, hover your camera over any of your badges, and you'll get some really cool videos and messages. Hover it over some of the card backs that we have available in the vendor room. I think they also coded their banners.
And how do you
Some of
tell
the
when you're
8x10s.
at display? How do you tell when to do it?
You just do it. Just do it
Just try.
anytime.
It's
Yeah.
literally everything.
You just
Everywhere in the building.
pretty much
Including the labels on the rooms.
Yep.
They will give you the panel schedule. Just
So
hovering over it.
if you're curious about the panel schedule, you can either scan the back of your badges with just the QR codes there, and that'll take you to our schedules and things on our websites and all that good stuff. Or you can use your Publish AR app and just hover your camera over any of the signage here, and it'll tell you what panel is happening in that room for the day. You'll get the whole schedule right there in front of you. It's really cool. We've already tested it out.
Of course, they have their own panel coming up. It's right after this, Aki?
Yeah.
Yeah, Publish AR is right after this, so we'll keep it short about that. But if you want to hear about that, stay in your seats. They're going to be in here shortly. Basically, what they did is they figured out how to make any picture a QR code. That's what happened.
And on top of that, like the 8x10 photos that they're going to go into in more detail, you hover the app open, it opens up your camera. You hover it over one of the 8x10 photos in the signer room, and it becomes that scene from that photo.
The picture will come alive.
Yeah, it will come alive. The AR is for augmented reality, so it's.
Who put
I
your
wasn't
mother in the
part of
front
this
row?
meeting. This is all just as new to me as it is
Yeah.
to you guys. I didn't know about this.
I can't say that that's attached to every single one of the photos in there because it had to be done ahead of time. I know for a fact that definitely Rory would have all of his photos set that way, and I know they're doing that with more people. They reached out to the guests that were coming and tried to get them to work with them, and so I mean that's just spilling a little of the beans that they're going to tell you a lot more detail about.
One
So-
of the other things that we wanted to do, Publish AR will speak for themselves.
Yes.
One of the things we wanted to do, we got a couple guests here in the room, not to call them out. Ding. We wanted to start bringing Star Wars specific influencers into what we're doing, not just only to get more coverage, of course that helps for the event as we grow the event, but also to we reach out to people that we know are good influencers, not only influencers in the community, but influences in the community. Mm-hmm. So
Absolutely.
you'll be seeing content from them all throughout the show.
Yep, and it's content creators like Nick, codename Fulcrum over here. I am going to point you out. There you are. Gabriel Estrada with Replicas over here, and my other good friend, Turntable to the Dark Side over here. Thank you very much for all of y'all's awesome content. Now, we have some really cool content creators with us today. We've talked about Kevin a little bit. Kevin, tell us a little bit about yourself and some of the awesome interviews you've done and some of the awesome interviews you have coming up in panels for this weekend.
And all the interviews you're going to steal from Bobby.
And I'm going to try to, because so one thing I noticed, I've been doing interviews for about 15 years at shows, and at one time I moved chairs before a panel, and then when I got on the panel, I was just too tired. I'm like, so I have a rule. I don't work before I do panels. I keep it cool, and I just want to go in there. And maybe it's because I'm a little bit older, but I noticed that Bobby's been working real hard. 10 minutes before this panel, he's in the autograph room at the register. Just punching away numbers. I'm like, how do they work you like that, man? I would never allow that.
We don't do it.
We don't
Bobby
do-
is in the position that he is in because he will not allow himself to stop. Trust me.
You're looking right at me when you say that, and I'm telling you right now, you ain't putting me to work, man. I'm too old. He's a young guy. You can't do that to me.
You're right. You're old.
Thanks, dude.
Okay, so tell us about some of the panels you have coming up.
Well, so I've got a bunch of panels. I'm actually I've done 91 Star Wars panels live in front of an audience, and I think that might be a record. I don't know anybody who's gotten more. As far as people have done phone interviews or whatever and talked to them, but I'm saying as far as in front of an audience. So this weekend I will actually pass 100, because which is pretty good. And
Congratulations, that's
thank you.
incredible.
Thank you. As long as I don't die. See, the thing is, if they work me beforehand, like Josh wants me to, moving furniture or whatever, I might not make it throughout the weekend.
I mean, if one of us is gonna drop, it's probably gonna be me.
I don't know. You want to wrestle right now, man? Let's go. I'm a lot bigger than you.
Okay, so we have one more guy up here we haven't fully introduced yet, and that is our other partner, Kentucky. So, yes, like the state, but no, not from the state.
It's really confusing.
And
It
that's
can
not
be.
even actually his name, but don't even ask his name because he won't give it to you.
Yeah, what do you want? That's it.
Kentucky came
Just don't tell us your real name. We like Kentucky. We think I call him
Kentucky
Kenneth. I
came-
call him Kenneth Ucky.
Well,
Kentucky came into this industry as a fan, just like the rest of us, with over 26 years of touring experience in the music industry with some of the biggest acts anywhere. Now you can take it away.
okay, so I don't know. A couple years ago, I moved to Texas, and unfortunately, and fortunately, financially and for the collection, I got back into collecting toys and Star Wars stuff specifically. Accidentally, somehow, on Facebook, I stumbled upon Order 66 toys, not knowing they were 15 minutes away from me and around the corner. I started watching their live sale, and I started participating in it. And then I started coming into the store to, pick up my stuff. And then I just befriended Bobby first, and then Josh, and we became pretty good friends. And my bank account has been suffering ever since. And it was almost a few months before Celebration in Anaheim. And I realized I had never been to one, because I'd only been to a few cons on the East Coast when I lived there. But with a touring schedule like I had for so many years, I'm never home when something's going on. I think I was at SDCC maybe once or twice. And now after like 2 years, 3 years getting heavy into collecting, I heard the guys were going to Celebration. I know it's not a ticket you can get easy if you weren't doing it on the day of the release. So I said, hey, how about this? I'll take care of my own flight. I'll take care of my own hotel. Can you get me in with you? And they said, sure. Okay. And I said, I'll help out. I'll pull some weight, but just let me know. And I'd never worked for the guys. I'd never done anything. All I had done is bought toys from the live sale.
During the travel of that event, on the way there, setting up, on the way back, Kentucky ended up being one of our best friends. And even then, we were from the day that we were offered rebelscum.com, we were discussing.
You okay, kid?
Here's the real boss.
You want to sit in the chair over here? Yeah, go sit in the chair. Go sit on the stage. Go sit over there. All right.
Thanks, Uncle Zach.
There you go.
Hanging out in the back of the room. Basically, Kentucky and I became very close friends, and we started talking about logistics and where I wanted to take the company at that time, and the idea of the convention came up, He's like, well, if you ever pull the trigger on that, I'd like to be involved. You better get in here. No, get in here. You didn't have to leave your booth. Ladies and gentlemen,
Our art director.
all of the art that you see in this convention was done by this gentleman right here. The badges,
All of the art? All of the art?
not everybody has seen the surprise stuff yet.
Oh, it hasn't come out yet.
Yeah, thanks.
Oh, really? It's a secret. Oh, all right.
So
Something
now
good's
that the-
coming,
now that
guys.
the
Something
secret-
good.
Now that the secret is out, here's the official announcement. Kevin here put together an awesome set of patches and our first ever Rebel Scum Con challenge coin. You can get it right inside the vendor room, all the way to the right-hand side at the Rebel Scum Con merch booth. There is the main patch that you build off of. Go by, you'll be able to see the entire thing. And then there is 2 exclusives each day, and you end up getting a full 10-inch by 10-inch patch. But we left the backing off of it so that you can sew it on. You can put adhesive magnet on there. You can adhesive Velcro. You can make it a pin. You can do whatever you want with it. You can frame it. A lot of people are framing it so far.
PVC, so I mean, it'll hold up. It'll look good pretty much anywhere you put it.
Yeah.
But just added to what you said that Kirk does do all the art. The coin was designed by Kirk, not me. My company manufactured it. He designed the coin, if I'm not mistaken, right? And then the original template for the art for the patch was designed by him also. I just did the actual characters that are in the patch. I'm taking most of the damn credit, though. Most of the darn credit, excuse me.
Well,
But the idea of how it came in, which at first I didn't like. I did not like that idea. But once we drew it out, I'm like, all right, he got it. That's a pretty good idea.
You know what the problem was? It was the problem was the Scout Trooper helmet. There was only a speeder bike, and as soon as we put a big Scout Trooper helmet, then it all came together.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Biker Scout over here.
I will have to point out, there was a Roger panel on there. He was scraped. They took it off. It broke my heart. I'm just saying.
We had 6 pictures.
It was the only one that didn't fit. It
5
made
of
sense.
them were troopers.
Yeah.
And a Roger. Sorry, Roger, you gotta go.
Yeah, it had to go. He was the only one who did
It initially, I guess we're going to go that far into the detail, it was going to be one trooper from every movie of the first 6 Star Wars movies.
Which
and of course,
yeah.
but we decided to put somebody else, and I think what took its place looks better.
It did. I think it was the short trooper that took its place?
No, the TIE pilot.
Oh yeah.
Well,
yeah,
it
the TIE
took
pilot
it
was
took
right.
that spot, but I think the shore trooper wasn't ever even mentioned until we said we need to replace Roger.
Right, because Episode 2 has a clone and Episode 3 has a clone. They're too similar, so we took out the Episode 2 clone and put a short trooper.
Right.
And it was really cool looking. If y'all haven't picked any of them up yet, again, they're going to be over at the merch booth all weekend long.
Side of that wall.
Yeah, actually. Yeah, right behind that wall right there. Okay, so tell us a little bit about your Star Wars story, Kevin. Where did Star Wars start for you?
My Star Wars story?
Yeah.
I've never been asked that question before. My Star Wars story started, we were playing in the pool in 1977, and it started raining out, and we had a rule that we couldn't be in the pool when it was raining because of lightning. And my mother said, "Let's go see a movie." We're like, "Nah, we don't want to go see a movie." And then we went to go see Star Wars, and now it's past 20 years has been 100% of my business. This is all I do is Star Wars. But back then in the 70s and 80s, they thought I was spending too much time in it, and they didn't like me doing it. Like, you got to do something else. And I had to go back a little bit further. So I graduated college. I was an illustrator. I got a master's in illustration, and realized one thing I learned in grad school was I was not as good an artist as like Ralph McQuarrie and Douglas Chang and those people. So I ended up getting in real estate. I was drafting and doing like expensive fireplaces and porches and stuff I was drawing. Anyway, I went to my first celebration in 2007. I walked in the room and I saw basically a dealer room. I'd never seen a room like that before, full of Star Wars stuff, and then little kids walking around. Anyway, so when I walked in the room and saw all the stuff they were selling for Star Wars, I was like, I'm in the wrong business, and I need to leave real estate, leave what I'm doing. So that was 2007. By 2008, Star Wars was about 40% of my business, and by 2012, it was 100%. That's all I do. Was that truncated enough of a Star Wars story?
Absolutely.
So real quick, I was given some notes. Is anybody unfamiliar with rebelscum.com? You got one. Okay, I'm talking to you.
You're gonna have to leave.
No, you're not. You're good.
Rebelscum.com has been around since 1996, founded by Philip Wise, and the purpose of the website was to wave the flag for the franchise in between films, basically. We didn't even know that we were getting more episodes, but essentially it was, there's new toys coming out, let's keep track of these and let's get some place that can share all the information. And then it spiraled out of control, and now we're here, however many years later. So that's one thing. Is anybody not familiar with Order 66 toys other than what we've already mentioned? Order 66
He won't
toys.
raise his hand now.
No, thank you for answering. Order 66 Toys is the nation's official collectible Star Wars toy store and part of the Star Wars network. And that is where we started, and now we're here.
So my next question is going to be for Nick. Nick, tell us your Star
My
Wars
story?
origin story.
Yeah. Well, I may have joined the team back in 2016, but I started looking at Rebel Scum in 1996. My origin story was around 95. These awesome toys came out. I had just been introduced to Star Wars and got to see the movies on VHS at the time. We were just a couple years away from special editions. So that was my first exposure to Star Wars in the theater, was the original trilogy movies prior to the prequels. And then Rebel Scum was always been my source for collecting, for seeing what was out there, for being informed of what was hitting shelves. I don't think Hasbro had the level of marketing it has now that it had back then. You had no idea when stuff was releasing. It just showed up. So Rebel Scum did a great job of not only keeping a checklist of things, of telling you what was coming out, and then having those kinds of conversations with the fandom. What's that? It was still Kenner. It started transitioning over. But yeah, around there. So still in the Power of the Force 2 collection. But for someone just getting into it and having not collected before, that was my source. I had nowhere else to go, basically. So there weren't that many sites at that time. I think maybe just 2 or 3. And Rebel Scum was paired up with theforce.net, which was the authority on Star Wars at the time. Even today, I know I ran into, Ashley Eckstein would say, that was her source for Star Wars at the time.
Force.net is here.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chris Wyman is here. Check out Everest Autograph Services online, guys. As Chris Wyman's new company is one of the partners for send-in service for the convention.
Specifically, our headliner, Ahmed Best, which was a very, very big deal because at first he wasn't sure, and then we said, hey, we're getting Ahmed, and he goes, I've got you guys. So Chris is here with us for that, and theforce.net is on site. Kirk,
For a few more moments.
tell us your Star Wars origin story.
Empire Strikes Back is the first movie I recall seeing in a theater. There's in particular the scene where Luke is flying to Dagobah and R2 is talking to him on the little screen. That's my first movie memory. I went with my father. My parents were divorced at the time, so he took us to the movies one weekend, and that's what I saw. It's what 1983, and then for these guys. Oh, sorry. With these guys, I ended up working with them because I was selling some toys, and the next thing I knew, here I am. So
Sucked in the same way, huh?
yeah, I know.
Well, a little different. Kurt came in to sell some toys to me and Jeffrey, and then it turned into, well, what do you do? And then he said, oh, well, I'm an artist. And then we said, cool, you want a job? And
Well, there was more to it than that. We had an art show monthly at that
Yes.
point.
Yes.
And I said, hey, come set up at the art show. I want to see your stuff. We did that in the store.
yeah.
And we saw the stuff, and we're like, cool, now make us a T-shirt.
Yep.
And now make us another T-shirt. Oh, now we go on a celebration.
Which you guys have still never seen those T-shirts because we never made them. But I do
Because you
have
kept
them.
making better stuff.
I do have them
Yeah.
still, though.
Yeah, he did.
So
With
here's the
designs.
real question. What is your origin story, sir?
My origin story? Well, back in the day when I was a kid, one of my only on paper. Ask me later though. We didn't really have satellite. Well, satellite was just becoming a thing, cable or anything like that. But what we did have was a TV and a VHS player. And
Black and white.
right back when we, right, and you had to push it by horse cart to get there, and then turn the dial. Yeah.
One program.
Oh yeah. So we had one of the first things I ever remember even watching was the original trilogy on VHS. I'm sure you all know it, or most of you in this room know it. It's the one where you've got the blue New Hope cover, purple Empire cover, and magenta Return of the Jedi cover, and you had Yoda, the Stormtrooper, and Vader on all three colors. And I'll never forget it. It's seared into my brain forever. Hello, I'm Leonard Maltin. And then, he's interviewing George in those. And I fell in love with it from the second I saw it. And it was my favorite thing instantaneously. I was probably 3 or 4 at the time. And it was also around the time Phantom Menace was coming out. So I didn't see Phantom Menace in theaters, but then I've seen every Star Wars movie in theaters since Attack of the Clones. I haven't missed a single one. And my mom's over here chanting May 19th because I would never let my parents forget that Revenge of the Sith was premiering on May 19th at a theater near you. You forgot the theater near you part. And the first time I saw Revenge of the Sith, because everybody was camping for days just to buy tickets to Revenge of the Sith back then. For those of you who remember what that was like. Now, you just buy it online and you sit in the seat you picked. It's not the same. It's something though. It's more efficient, I guess, but not the same. I miss the days of camping. My first time watching Revenge of the Sith, which is my #1 favorite Star Wars movie, was standing on one of those little plastic crates in the back of the movie theater auditorium in Movie Theaters 14 in McKinney, Texas, because I snuck in while my great aunt took me and my sister to see something else. It doesn't even matter whatever it was. I don't remember because it doesn't matter. It wasn't Star Wars. And I stood there for 3 hours and whatever straight watching Revenge of the Sith for the first time ever. Yes, whole time. But it wasn't just me back there. I mean, there was a bunch of adults and other people who had also snuck in because not only was every seat taken, but the whole back was taken. The little walking aisles in the back of the room were taken. Everybody was cramming in there to watch this movie, and it was so spectacular. And Star Wars has just, for me, kind of maintained that for a very long time. Even into some of the other stuff that's maybe not liked as others, and I get that, that's okay. But Star Wars has always been magical from the first moment I watched it, and I've always wanted to be a part of it, and I got lucky enough to join in with this guy at Order 66, and I haven't done very many panels yet. This is actually my first, so I don't know if you can tell.
You want a few pointers?
Yeah, sure. I'll talk to you after this.
Not
right now,
no,
though.
I can tell you right now.
No, not right now, though. We'll see you later. But I've done a bunch of interviews. Mostly celebrity interviews. And my first was at this convention, Mr. Dickie Beer. It was my first ever interview through Order 66 Toys, January of 2018. And it's been fun ever since. And I haven't wanted to do anything else.
This is what happens when you put a team together that is used to doing live content. We will just ramble and go. And as some of you that watch the show know, we usually have 4 hours to fill.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, don't get us together because we'll just keep going.
Yep. All right, we got a couple more questions.
No, we don't. We're at the end of our time. There's one thing left to say. Welcome to Rebel Scum Con.